Overwatch is an incredibly popular game right now, so no doubt you've heard a lot of publicity and hoo-ha about it. You might have heard everyone ranting on about how good it is, how it has rave reviews, maybe you've heard about how it's recently toppled League of Legends as the #1 game played in Korean internet cafes. So let's start from the very top with this game. Overwatch is a multiplayer first-person shooter, but don't make any assumptions just yet. This is the first attempt at such a game by Blizzard Entertainment, who, for the uneducated among us, are also responsible for the long-running Warcraft, StarCraft, and Diablo series. It's on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. For this review, I'll be talking about the PC version. But enough technical bullcrap, you say? Why is the game so damn good then? Well, allow me to explain. Let's begin with the backstory. The deal is that 30 years before the game begins, there was a crisis known as the Omnic Crisis, in which certain groups of an artificial intelligence known as the Omnic began trying to overthrow the human race. The Overwatch was formed to combat this crisis and restore order, but after the resolution of the Omnic Crisis, a combination of massive schisms in the Overwatch, lots of public outcry due to Overwatch taking the blame for various failures and wrongdoings, and 2 prospective leaders being killed in an apparent terrorist attack on the Overwatch headquarters, led to the Overwatch being disbanded by the UN and any Overwatch activity being forbidden by law. The plot picks up 30 years later when everything is starting to go to pot again, with corporations taking over, fighting and terrorism picking up again, and another Omnic crisis brewing in Russia. And in reaction, former Overwatch member Winston decides to band together old friends and new allies to defy the law and reform Overwatch. However, this backstory is not mentioned in the game itself and serves as little more than a backdrop for the gameplay and introductions to the characters and their personalities, and that's actually a good thing. Similarly to how Team Fortress 2 handles its plot, Overwatch tells its story by way of comics and animated short videos on the internet, which don't otherwise tie into the game in any other way than to tell a story outside of it. As a result, if you try and apply the plot to the game directly, it just doesn't make sense, and honestly you don't really need to know it at all, since what really makes this game stand out is its gameplay. The closest comparison with regards to how the game plays is, again, Team Fortress 2, in the sense that, rather than having customizable classes, Overwatch allows you to play as one of several heroes, each with their own abilities and focus, which are sorted into 4 different categories, those being offense, defense, tank, and support. Offense heroes are intended for very active play, moving about, doing damage, and taking the fight straight to the enemy. Defense heroes are built similarly, but are intended for more passive, defensive roles. Tanks are exactly what they say on the tin. They have a lot of health, and are built to draw enemy fire away from allies, and generally act as a bullet sponge. Support characters are, again, as their name suggests, built more for healing, buffing, and generally supporting their allies than for damaging their enemies. Each hero has their own weapon of choice, weaknesses, strengths, and special abilities. That's 2 standard abilities and 1 ultimate ability, which charges passively but can be hastened by getting kills, taking objectives, or healing. For instance, one of the hero Reaper's abilities gives him invulnerability but renders him unable to attack, and his ultimate lets him fire his shotguns all around to deal massive damage to nearby enemies. Reinhardt can deploy a massive shield behind which allied players can take cover, and his ultimate lets him stun enemies to make them more vulnerable, and Mercy, a support hero, has an ultimate which can revive recently killed allies in the vicinity. Each of the heroes also has a unique design and their own personality traits. The famous Tracer is upbeat and flirtatious, Diva is peppy and excitable but determined, Hanzo has a deep sense of honor and perfection, and Lucio is a walking Jet Set Radio reference. This makes all of the characters, with the exception of a couple, in their own way enjoyable, not just to play as but as characters as well, to listen to and get a feel for their personality as they speak and interact with other characters in the game. And believe me when I say, this is one game in which you will be playing as a lot of characters. There is a very heavy focus on team playing in this game, more so than most games of its type, and this is something which is noticeable from the very beginning. The role you choose and the hero you pick really matters. Before a match begins, the game will even give little tips in the sidebar on how to optimize your team, suggesting what needs to change and where the team might be weak. For instance, if there's too many heroes of one category, if the combined damage of all the team members is too low, or if there aren't any players playing as heroes with a specific tactical focus, like builders or snipers. But even when you've picked a character, once you get into a round, it also becomes very apparent that this is not a game where you can just run ahead and do what you like. If you want to win, then your team has to be coordinated and you do have to work together, which may seem quite daunting at first, but honestly the learning curve is not difficult at all. I found it really quite easy to settle into the game, fit myself into a role and adapt as necessary for the situation. The game's tutorial helps massively since it starts by putting you in control of Soldier 76, possibly the most familiar character of them all in terms of gameplay, and walks you through the very basics, but not in such a way as to be monotonous or boring, and it even gives you the time at the end to flick through all the different heroes and test them out to try and find one that clicks for you. All this adds up to make Overwatch quite possibly one of the most accessible multiplayer shooters I've ever seen. I found myself talking like a pro after just a week or so of play. You could probably even relatively easily teach your grandmother to play this game. All of the characters are also individually voice acted, and the voice acting is generally speaking quite good.
Come out and face me!
Oh, let's break it!
True self is without form.
Justice reigns from above.
All of the voices are really believable and very well acted, and one thing that I really love about it is that despite the very diverse range of characters, none of the accents fall into the trap of sounding overly stereotypical. It gives it an extra layer of believability in that they all sound not like caricatures of a particular nationality, but like actual people. Yes, even Tracer.
Cheers, love!
In-game, you can play against either human players or against AI of varying levels of difficulty. Presently, there's only 3 base game modes with 1 mode per map. These include Assault Mode, where one team attempts to capture a set of control points whilst the other team tries to stop them, Escort Mode, where one team is escorting a mobile bomb to a target location whilst the other team tries to prevent them from doing so, and Control Mode, a King of the Hill-esque mode seeing both teams aiming to take and retain control of the map's objective areas. There are some maps, however, which have a strange combination of assault and escort missions, where the attacking team has to capture an objective, then escort a payload. Whilst the main modes are nothing new in terms of their mechanics, they haven't become any less fun, and I really like what they're doing by combining 2 modes on one map. It's actually kind of an innovative way of making something new out of 2 quite well-worn modes. New modes can also appear during special events, for instance the Lucio Ball event that took place during the 2016 Olympic Games. After a game is finished, the best play of that game is then showcased. Usually a person who got a lot of kills in a short amount of time, but can also mean a particularly good tactical maneuver. Once the play of the game has been showcased, the game also gives out medals to players who attain specific records for that game, for instance most kills, most damage dealt, most healing done, or most objective time. Some of these are shown on the results screen, and those players can be commended by their fellow players, friend and foe. This doesn't really serve any purpose other than a morale booster, further supporting the team and enjoyment focus of the game. Also present is a level system not unlike Ghost in the Shell First Assault. You gain experience after the end of a game, and every time you level up, you gain a loot box which always contains 4 cosmetic items. These range from voice lines to character skins and sprays, and even victory poses and play of the game poses. Loot boxes can also be bought from the in-game store with real money, though since the rewards are purely cosmetic and you can get loot boxes for free anyway, that's only there if you really want to, and isn't in any way necessary. There are also at present a couple of balance issues when it comes to certain heroes. Let's just say that you will grow to fear certain sound bites in this game.
It's high noon.
And you'll also develop a disdain for people who play as certain heroes. I'm looking at you, Bastion. Aside from that, in summary, Overwatch is a great first-person shooter with plenty of variety, interesting characters, and perfectly functional and fun gameplay. Heck, it might even be one of 2016's most fun games. That's pretty much entirely why this game is so good, because it's fun. Fun to look at, fun to listen to, and fun to play. And let's face it, what more can you ask for from a game? If you feel like splashing a lot of cash, you can get the Origins edition, but really all that gets you aside from the base game is some character skins and some extra items in pretty much all of Blizzard's other games. So really, unless you care about that kind of thing, want a physical version, or are a massive Blizzard fan, you're probably better off getting the standard edition, which is a whole £15 cheaper at £29.99, but digital only. I have been Deuterium the Sentient Mattress, and this has been my review of Overwatch. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. Ta-ta! Rather than have customer support characters are, again, as the name suggests, built more for and Control, which is a King of the Hill-esque mode seeing both teams